This is Andy Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Matt Macklin here in London. Matt, I ran outside, I brought you back in just as you was leaving. I appreciate you dropping back in to do this. How are you?
I'm good, yeah, no, good. Obviously, good little press conference there. Lots of respect between the two, which I like. You know, people nowadays, I think there's that much like theatrics with all the misfit boxing and all the other stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, if there's legit needle, and it is legit, then yes, it does obviously add a bit of spice, doesn't it? But when it's kind of artificial, it's not organic, then I don't like it. So when you got two kind of seasoned, proven, really good old pros in there talking respectfully, this is a good fight. It's a proper fight. Listen, Billam-Smith could get beat. I don't think he will. I think he's a slight favourite because of the freshness. Other than that, there's not a lot between them. But he's got to be on his game, and coming off that big performance against the Coley, he's got to make sure he doesn't. Look, I don't think he will look past it because he doesn't seem that type of character. But you know what I mean. He's got to be on his game.
Everybody expects this fight to catch fire at some point. A very different style to what Lawrence Okolie poses. What do you anticipate to happen come December 10th?
Look, they're both pretty orthodox type of fighters. They don't really, from a style perspective, they're quite similar really. As in, there's not one area where they're particularly spectacular in, but then there's no real area where they're really weak in. They're really sort of solid all-rounders. I think it'll be a good fight. I think it'll be from an easy on the eye, from an exciting style, fan friendly. I think it will be a good action-packed fight between two real good, solid pros.
Obviously, just on the CBS front as well, if he comes through, you've got that Lawrence Okolie rematch. You've got Richard Riakporhe, the WBO #1 as well. How would you like to see next year play? Is it simply those two fights, or you've also had Jai Opetaia calling Chris out quite a bit?
Look, I think the two fights of which there will be rematches, because, like I say, he fought Riakporhe early on in his career, lost a split decision. Close, that was a good, hard, close fight, and so that's a natural rematch. Obviously, the Okolie one as well. Opetaia unification, yeah, definitely. But I'd like to see the domestic fights. I'd like that situation to get cleaned up first, the Okolie and the Riakporhe.
Matt, just away from this, I'll get your thoughts on a hot topic this past weekend, Tyson Fury, Fury-Ngannou. Over social media, there was quite a divided opinion as to how people saw the fight. What did you make of what we saw?
Well, I put a tweet out. Obviously, I watched the fight, but I just sat down and watched the fight as a viewer, as a fan. I didn't sit there with a pen and paper out scoring it because I didn't think there'd be any need to. Do you know what I mean? I didn't even, in my wildest dreams or nightmare, think that it was ever going to be even a contestable. Do you know what I mean? Questionable. I just thought it was going to be. I thought Fury'd stop him, or at the very least he'd coast and win every round. That's what I thought, and I guess that's what he thought, or what everyone thought. He come out quite quick. He's never. He doesn't normally come out that fast, Fury. He come out to bang him out, didn't he? First, you know what I mean? And obviously that didn't happen, and his timing was out, his distance was poor. Even physically, conditioning-wise, he didn't look in great shape. And obviously Ngannou was a lot better than what he thought. I don't think he was. He was quite good at. He was quite patient. Ngannou, he didn't really. He never got erratic. He didn't lean over his front foot. He didn't reach for Fury. He didn't overcommit or anything like that. He was quite patient, and I think Fury found that hard to deal with because he didn't expect it. But look, he definitely overlooked it. And that's not me sticking up for boxing. I'm just stating a fact. He clearly overlooked him. Do you know what I mean? And look, he paid the price and probably was lucky to get away with the win in the end. Like I say, I didn't sit down and score it. But I remember thinking, but obviously when the knockdown happened, you start thinking, how are we seeing this type thing? And then it was like, I remember thinking, gee, when the bell went, I remember thinking, he might have blown this. You know, and then you start thinking, well, you know, he probably was throwing more punches, and are we just thinking that because Ngannou got the knockdown and surprised us because he did so much better than we thought? As Fury probably still actually won more rounds, but I didn't know because, like I said, I'd never sat there and scored it. I was just trying to. After the knockdown, I started trying to score it in my head, but like I never sat there with a pen and paper and scored it as the rounds were unfolding.
Obviously, over recent years of Tyson, he's obviously been in some massive fights, and when he wins, you see him in the ring jumping up and down, celebrating. Never quite saw that this past weekend. What do you make of that specifically? Do you feel like maybe Tyson himself felt not only did he underperform, maybe he was a little fortunate to get the result, or he just effectively in his own mind may have thought, listen, I was here to do a job, I got the win, and it wasn't a big fight for him? What do you think?
I thought he looked mortified. He's so embarrassed. He just wanted to get out of there. You know, he was obviously glad that he got away with the win, but he must have thought to himself, how's that happened? You know, I bet he was really, I bet he's annoyed with himself now that he wasn't more switched on, more focused. You know, he was obviously going to the gym and training, but there's training going through the motions, and there's training with an edge. And these fights that you're supposed to win easy are never good fights, because the other guy's going to raise his game. You fall down a few levels. So what should be a foregone conclusion becomes anything but. And you know, and then when you're in there, you know, you start getting annoyed at yourself. You're having this you got this conversation going on, talking about where you're pissed off with yourself, fuming at yourself, and then at the same time thinking, yeah, I've got to snap out of this. I've got to get this together. I've got to pull this around. And you know, then you start trying too hard. You're trying to force things, and then you're just in a bad place. Like I said, I said this for a piece that I did with Sky. All things considered, I actually thought Fury did quite well to turn his performance around and adjust and find a way to win. You know, because he was, you know, from the start that he had, it was catastrophic. He could have fell apart altogether, which he didn't. So you got to give him props for that.
Matt, I just spoke to Shane McGuigan about it, and Shane suggested, not saying it's the case, but maybe Tyson is a little bit on the slide now. Won't really know till we see him in the ring again, but could that be a possibility at this stage in his career?
Look, once people are going into their kind of mid-30s and they've had a few hard fights in recent times, that's always a possibility. If Ngannou was, say, a top 10 contender boxer, I probably would have said that was the case. But I think the fact that it was like one of these kind of crossover, you know, fights like the McGregor Mayweather, I don't think it. I can't say that. I think for me, it's more that he just completely overlooked it. You know what I mean? And it was complete complacency. But I don't. But listen, that's not impossible. You know, there are miles on the clock now. So who knows?
Obviously, we know about the Fury-Usyk fights lined up. It's been spoken about taking place next year now. Has what we saw this past weekend changed your opinion at all on how a Fury-Usyk fight could play out?
No, this could be a blessing for Fury. You know, there was all the Netflix things, and there's this deal and that deal going on. A lot of stuff outside of his boxing career, outside of the ring, distractions. You know, this could well end up being a blessing in disguise, because it'll remotivate him, refocus him. And actually, this is probably a bad thing for Usyk, because, you know, if he was any chance he had of maybe catching Fury on the hop, a bit distracted, underestimating him, that's not going to happen now. I'd say, you know, sometimes in your career, your best performance follows your worst, because all of a sudden, you know, you refocus, you start analysing everything with a fine-tooth comb again, because you don't want to feel that level of you know, embarrassment or pain.
Just with Francis Ngannou now, we've got a new heavyweight to consider up amongst the top level fighters. Who would you maybe like to see him in with next? I've seen Eddie Hearn mention the Anthony Joshua fight. Gilles Zhang said he'd love to fight him as well. How do you think, say, a Joshua Ngannou fight would go?
Look, any of those fights, because they're also top heavyweights, and it'd be interesting to see how he does get on with those. You know, does a Wilder or a Joshua, do they blast him out of there, and then we think, oh yeah, Fury did look past him, or actually does he give them a run for their money, and then you think, oh, actually this guy is legit. He's here to look. He's obviously a legit fighter. You know what I mean? Combat sports, but I think everyone was surprised how well he did with Fury, and some of that is that he was good, absolutely. But also I think a lot of it was Fury was really bad. So you know, I don't think anyone who boxes him next, whether it's Zhang or Joshua, I don't think they're going to make that same mistake that Fury did.
Final thing from me, Matt, we've got Chris Eubank Sr. back on the boxing scene now. He's doing some interviews the other day with Harlem Eubank. He'll be working alongside him, his nephew now. Just get your thoughts on Senior suggesting they'd rather see Harlem versus Conor Benn up at 147 as opposed to, say, Conor versus Junior.
Yeah, I know what he's saying. Once you move up in weight and you put on all that muscle and that, you can't really come. It's very difficult to come back down then. Well, we've seen it with people, Roy Jones, through the years. When you go up and come back down, it's been detrimental to them. So, I mean, I don't have a massive opinion on it, but I get what he's saying.
Right, Matt, I will leave you now to enjoy the rest of your day. Shoot back up to Birmingham because you came back into Duvie. So I'll see you soon. I'll see you in Wolverhampton, if not before.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And this Corey that you keep promising me.